So, Sonic Forces has been out for a week now. I've had time to play through the game for multiple hours. I'm actually quite close to 100%ing it. It was released to mixed reception, mainly due to the linear levels in the story. The story is about 3 to 4 hours long. I mean, I enjoyed the game while it lasted, but it could have been a lot longer. The game itself is just weird. Now, don't get me wrong, I like the game. It's not the worst Sonic game and it's definitely not the best. It just kind of exists. And that's not a bad thing, but for a project that's been in development for 4 years, it leaves a lot to be desired. I completely understand why people have problems with this game, and I do too. I played the PS4 version for anyone wondering, and I have no experience with the others. I'm going to break this video up into sections: the story, the characters, the gameplay, the music, and final thoughts. I'm sorry if what I say doesn't reflect how you feel, but that's the beauty of opinions. And yeah, there will be spoilers in this video, so if you haven't played the game yet and don't wish to be spoiled, leave now and come back once you play the game. Thanks.
Together we can show the world what we can do. You are next to me and I'm next to you.
Just a heads up, the story segment isn't going to be like a plot summary or whatever. I'm just going to be talking about things I liked and things I didn't like. The story in Sonic Forces let me down. It is very underdeveloped. I seriously feel like I was baited by Sega. They shown off Chaos and Shadow within the trailers, which led to huge speculation amongst the community. Many discussed why Shadow would be evil, and others thought that Tikal and the child would return due to Chaos. But no, they're fakes. That rubs me the wrong way. It's a cop-out, to be honest. Throughout the trailers, these characters have been built up for absolutely no reason. Even Zavok was a massive letdown. He lets Sonic out of prison, okay, and then what? He gets destroyed. But don't worry, it was a fake. It just feels lazy, honestly. Like, I was expecting some huge reveals, but ultimately nothing happened. With Metal Sonic, it would have been cool to see Eggman rebuild him. Maybe he'd be powered up and have new moves. I mean, he is on the cover of the box. You'd expect him to have a big focus. Him and Infinite could have teamed up to wreak havoc onto the heroes. Instead, Metal Sonic is in one level. I'm not even joking. Why? On a different note, I honestly appreciate the darker themes. It was handled a lot better than other games, but the way the story is told is just bad, and it makes these themes feel like they're trying way too hard to be edgy. For example, Infinite plans to destroy the world using the sun. Cool enough. Then our Avatar stops his plan using Phantom Ruby. Cool too. But then Sonic has to butt in and say it's all up to the power of friendship and that Infinite has no friends. Like, seriously? The story is also paced oddly. Like, we see Sonic get defeated and then immediately jump 6 months into the future, and then we're given 3 days to save the world, and at this point the story's pacing nosedives and becomes a mess. Maybe it's because the levels are so short, but everything happens so quickly. 6 months and 3 days is squashed into about 4 hours of gameplay, and everything happens so fast, and not in a good way. The story leaves a lot to be desired. It's just bland. The highlight is definitely the custom character, but at times it feels odd how they're given so much attention. Like, it doesn't make sense why the Resistance would throw them straight into these life or death situations. You'd think they'd be eased into them. I feel like a lot more time could have been spent developing these characters so people actually care about them, because besides fanservice, none of them contribute anything to the plot. It would have been interesting to see what everybody was doing in the 6 months Sonic was gone, to see how they individually coped with what happened, or just how the Resistance came to be. Maybe I'm looking too deep into this and expected too much, but don't introduce all these cool concepts and characters and then do absolutely nothing with them. You know what would have actually been cool? You know in Generations, the minigames you can do with other Sonic characters? Can you imagine having minigames in Forces similar to that? Except in Forces they're used to train the rookie. Like, that would have been really cool and would explain why the Resistance relies on them so much. Even though the story is about Eggman conquering the world, he is in the main game for less than 10 minutes. They built up this huge thing on the Eggman Empire and it just vanishes. Honestly, Sonic being captured should have never been a plot point because it is so stupid. Eggman holds him captive and tortures him for 6 months, and then Infinite defeats Sonic and spares him. It's so confusing. Surely Infinite would be aware that Sonic is the one who escaped the Death Egg, and surely he'd understand that Sonic would be a threat if Eggman kept him in captivity. Hell, Infinite defeats Sonic within the first 5 minutes of the game. What is he thinking? Why doesn't he just kill Sonic? It's not that hard! Sonic isn't even the first person Infinite spares. He also spares the custom character. Why the hell is Infinite sparing all these people? Wouldn't he have learnt from himself that this is a bad idea? What do I mean by this? Well, in episode Shadow, Shadow beats the living daylights out of Infinite and spares him, and then obviously Infinite rises from this experience. Surely he'd think logically, oh, if I spare all these people, they may come back and bite me. Nah, who gives a shit? Going back to episode Shadow, that was also disappointing. Okay, I get it was free DLC, but just read how it was being advertised. Get episode Shadow to uncover the untold story of the new villain Infinite. Experience the full story behind the new villain's rise to power. Well, do you really want to know what happens? Infinite works alongside Eggman and is ordered to protect Eggman's facility. Shadow comes along and destroys Infinite's group and Infinite himself. Infinite then fuses with the Phantom Ruby in order to get revenge against Shadow. That is it. Infinite's motive is revenge against Shadow. I'm so done. You don't even see Infinite's face in game. The official Sonic Twitter tweeted out what he looks like in the comics. Episode Shadow is just a really shallow backstory for Infinite, and I mean, it's cool to be playing as Shadow again, but in terms of the story, it's boring. One thing I was looking forward to for episode Shadow was seeing Team Dark interact, and I found this part to be handled quite well. The banter between Shadow and Omega was nice, and Rouge was keeping the two together. Admittedly, it reminded me of Sonic Heroes. I just wish it lasted longer. Why is everything in this game just so short? The whole plot is just contrived. I'm sorry, I know it's a Sonic game, blah blah blah, but I thought this game would have a good story. I wish I was a realist and not an optimist. I wish I didn't get my hopes up regarding the story, because of course it would disappoint. I'm hoping for Infinite to come back honestly. After the way he exits the narrative, it makes me think that Sonic Team have more in store for him, but who knows? I certainly don't have my hopes up. The whole thing is purely fan service, and it really saddens me to say that. It feels like they focus more on what references they could throw in rather than a cohesive story, and I really mean that. I'm just disappointed. If they wanted to make a detailed, more in-depth story, then they should have gone all the way with it. People criticize Generations and Color's story, but honestly I have nothing wrong with them. They didn't really try to do anything too extreme, and it worked. It felt like to me that Sonic Forces was being advertised on its story. The whole world is destroyed, villains have returned, and there is seemingly no way our heroes can win. If you watch any trailer, the whole world is in dystopia, and I was seriously looking forward to seeing how it all played out. The whole thing is underdeveloped, and I hate myself for getting my hopes up. To end this section on a positive note, I really enjoyed the character interactions between the levels. It was a nice change of pace and a neat little way for characters to interact with each other even though they're on opposite sides of the planet. I like seeing the banter between the characters as the cutscenes mainly focus on the custom character and Sonic.
Push me on through until the battle's won.
The characters are all over the place. Infinite is so disappointing. He was hyped up so much, trailers constantly showing him off to be this be-all end-all villain who is ultimately stopped by the power of friendship. It's just sad. Even within the story it feels like he's hardly in it, but that may just be due to the game's short length. Fan speculation was through the roof regarding Infinite. Some people theorized that he could be an alternate version of our avatar, others thought it could be some twisted version of Sonic. But no, he's a generic wolf. Infinite is cool and all, I still like him despite him being disappointing. He's edgy and hip, yeah, but I don't know, maybe it's his design, it's probably his design. It looks sick, you know, like maybe it's his mask, it's probably his mask. I mean, he's also Gaara. I haven't watched Naruto in like 4 years, but that's cool, right? He's also stupid, like, come on, throughout the plot he has so many times he can kill Sonic or the custom character, but instead he just toys around with them. Even Eggman calls him out on his BS, saying that Infinite letting Sonic live is a great concern. Infinite is very powerful, he's just stupid. Getting called worthless by Shadow is his motivation, and I think we can all agree that that is stupid. At least it's better than people mistaking Sonic for Shadow in Sonic Adventure 2, but not by much. At least his theme is amazing. Say what you want, but I unironically love it. His boss fights are really boring though, and they're all things that we've seen before. That's just adding on to the disappointment. Okay, the next character I want to talk about is Tails. He's just a shell of his former self. He believes Sonic to be dead and falls into a depression which stems throughout the whole narrative. Unless I'm missing something, it makes no sense as to why Tails believes Sonic to be dead. Infinite knocks Sonic out, and then the screen fades to black. Tails is there when Sonic gets knocked out. He would know he isn't dead. Surely this would ensue a rescue plan. I mean, he's Tails. He's a genius. I feel like his character was a missed opportunity. He could have been responsible for creating the Wispons, or he could have helped the Resistance by building machines to fight back against Eggman's robots. Just anything would have been better than what we got. He was just moping around everywhere with no real purpose. When Sonic returned, Tails still wasn't in the narrative that much. He was in it here and there, but he didn't really contribute to anything. He just felt more like Classic Sonic's voice, as, once again, Classic Sonic does not speak. Classic Sonic really should not be here. It is completely pointless. He contributes nothing to the plot, and I don't see why they brought him back. It's just a hindrance more than anything. They've already brought him back once through generations, and Mania handles him pretty well. I really don't know why they brought him back. He contributes nothing to the narrative. The most notable thing he does is save Tails from chaos. I just don't understand why he was brought back. All it does is divide the fanbase even more. He is useless. I'm jumping the gun here a bit, but all he does is cause confusion regarding gameplay. We had 2D Classic Sonic, 2D Modern Sonic, 2D Custom Character, 3D Modern Sonic, 3D Custom Character, and the tag team stages. Why do we need a character that solely plays 2D when the other characters already do it? Classic Sonic has his own game series, just leave him out of the 3D games please. On a more positive note, the next character I want to talk about is Knuckles. I think it's really cool how Knuckles is a central character and is the leader of the Resistance. Over the years I've warmed up to him, so maybe I'm a little biased, but it was honestly refreshing to see somebody else take the initiative rather than Sonic. Knuckles has good chemistry with the other characters, resulting in his leadership position being believable. I just think he was a good choice as leader, and overall he was great. Silver is another great character. Yes, I said Silver. I really enjoyed Silver having an active role throughout the narrative. He fought with Infinite and always chimed in regarding on what to do with the Resistance. He was always there, and to be honest, I'm glad to see him being active. Since Silver's debut, his character has been all over the place, from his past, his gameplay in 06, the fact he looks like a marijuana leaf. Well, I feel like the story was progression for Silver's character, and I like that. On to Shadow, who I wish was more involved. Like, yeah, he did get episode Shadow, but besides his initial introduction and the fact we all got baited thinking he would be a villain, he doesn't really do anything. All he does is kickstart Infinite's role as villain, which is important, but the way it's executed is very poor. Just a simple revenge story is underwhelming for a villain that was built up so much, but anyway, back to Shadow. I'm just disappointed. He could have had a much bigger role, but I am psyched that he is once again playable. It's been too long. He's also still great at kicking people around the head, that never gets old. I also want to note that Shadow's voice sounds much better here than it did in Generations. It's the same voice actor, Kirk Thornton, but he sounds much better. Maybe the Sonic Boom TV role helped him find his voice within the character, I don't know, but it sounds great. I previously mentioned Team Dark, and I loved seeing them interact. The last time we'd seen Omega was in Sonic Colors DS, which was forever ago. He seriously needs to be in more games, because the way he just baffles on about terminating Eggman's robots is amusing. Rouge is also there. I mean, she's okay I guess. She doesn't really stick out to me like the other characters, except there is one line, and it's when she calls Omega awesome. It's just odd to me. It was nice seeing Team Chaotix again. I mean, Charmy didn't really do anything, but that's okay. Amy was kind of cool. She worked in the Resistance headquarters to provide information on what's happening. She wasn't annoying in this game, so that's always a plus. I found Sonic to be good. He's still the quirky, chili dog loving Blue Blair, but a lot of his lines, minus the friendship ones, were actually quite funny and I laughed a fair bit. But he doesn't really consolidate Tails when they're reunited, they just kind of interact. It's weird because you'd think Tails would be the first person Sonic speaks to, but he just kind of shuns him off in favour of the custom character. The relationship Sonic has with the other characters is great. He's the one holding the Resistance together after being away for so long, and I mean, what else would you expect from Sonic? His relationship with the custom character is a bit weird though. Like, I get the game's target demographic is children, but the fact the two become so close so fast is really confusing. Like, I know the game's focus is the custom character, but the way Sonic treats them is weird. It felt like to me that Sonic was treating them like they were as close as him and Tails, and I know they're in a position where they have to stop the world from ending, but they've only known each other for roughly 3 days. I'm surprised Tails wasn't super jealous throughout this narrative because he's just been pushed away. There's nothing really to say about the custom character themselves though. They don't speak and they look however you want them to. They do have major plot significance though, such as finding the Phantom Ruby, freeing Sonic, fighting Infinite, having all the friends killed before their eyes. Finally, we have Dr. Eggman. Eggman was just there. Like, he didn't really do much except the initial conquering the world. He was hardly seen in any cutscenes and he never really spoke to the Resistance. He has a few lines here and there, and I know I'm probably gonna get hate for saying this, but he felt irrelevant. I never once thought, I can't wait to see Eggman again. It was more like, I can't wait to see Infinite again. And obviously that makes sense. Infinite was the new villain, but it's just sad how Infinite was pushed away in favour of an Eggman final boss. Usually Eggman is the butt of everyone's jokes, but he hardly interacts with the cast, and when he does it's not notable. Maybe it's because Sonic Team wanted to focus on the darker themes, but throwing shade at Eggman never gets old. Orbot and Cubot accompany Eggman. Orbot has one line and I don't think Cubot speaks. Disappointing because they're usually the comic relief characters and I enjoy them when they're there. Also, no Cream and Blaze or Big the Cat. Okay, Cream and Big the Cat are understandable, but sadly Blaze is nowhere to be found. Don't tell me that she's dead and couldn't be in the game. She's perfectly alive in Generations. Maybe we just don't deserve her. Overall, the characters are a mixed bag. Characters such as Knuckles, Silver and Amy suited their role, while others like Shadow, Eggman, Tails and even Infinite should have been more fleshed out and leave a lot to be desired. Again, I get that the focus was on the custom character, but it still would have been nice to have characterization with the supporting cast. I probably went way too in detail with this section, but I feel like it's justified. Don't have a plot heavy game and not bother to develop your characters, it's lazy. Let's get on to the meat of Sonic Forces, the gameplay. Classic Sonic is without a doubt the worst character to play as. Once again, why is he even here? He has at least stages thankfully, 6 levels, a boss and 1/3 of the final boss. His levels are just really bland, linear and boring. His levels aren't as expansive as Sonic Mania's or even Sonic Generations, and they lack the visual finesse of modern Sonics or the custom characters. I've heard people say that he controls better in this game than in Generations, and I have to ask, really? I'm scared to jump as Classic Sonic within this game. He drops like a brick. When you jump, if you move the control stick the slightest bit in the opposite direction, he loses all momentum and just stops. This led to me dying countless times as there's plenty of make or break situations over bottomless pits, the most notable being within stage 28, Iron Fortress. And auto-scroller for Classic Sonic? Any auto-scrolling within a Sonic game is a bad idea. It goes against the very fundamental the series stands for, speed. I'm glad Classic Sonic has the least levels. It also helps that his levels are fairly short because I don't enjoy playing as him. I hope he does not come back to any future 3D Sonic games. Just Sonic Team, stop causing customer confusion. Leave him alone in the 2D games. If I wanted to play a 2D Sonic game, I'd play Sonic Mania. Modern Sonic, where to begin with this guy? Well, his levels are the most linear out of the 3 play styles. They are ridiculously narrow. It's like they took one look at Sonic Generations then went in the opposite direction. From the team that brought you Sonic Colors and Sonic Generations, my arse. The way Sonic controls is odd, it's very stiff and it doesn't help that the drift is gone. May I ask why? The drift was so fluid, it handled like a dream as well. It just seems strange that they got rid of it. They probably got rid of it because it would highlight that you're basically running down a narrow path the entire time. Yeah, modern Sonic's level design is probably the worst. Like, yeah, the levels look beautiful visually, not as beautiful as Unleashed, but to be honest, I don't think anything can look as beautiful as Unleashed. But just being beautiful doesn't account for poor level design. You hold the boost button the entire time, that's a staple of the boost formula sure, but there's some levels where you are literally running in a straight line. You might move the analog stick once or twice, you might jump a bit. Examples of these levels are Luminous Forest, Mortar Canyon and Metropolitan Highway. The game tries to add some 2D segments in for variety, but they're all designed pretty poorly and last for a short amount of time. Sonic also has his double jump from colours, which is alright I guess. It helped me out a couple of times, but god damn if it isn't hard to control. Much like classic Sonic, modern Sonic controls like a brick in the air. This results in some pretty easy to make jumps being stupidly hard. It's just sad. It doesn't help that we're constantly retreading environments amongst the characters. It's nice to get different perspectives amongst the environments, but when the perspective is just running in a straight line, I'd rather not. I noticed that cinematic sequences happen quite a lot within modern Sonic's levels. I'm not talking about the parts and levels where you're briefly shown Sonic going through a loop or performing a big jump or whatever. I'm on about the quick time elements incorporated within his levels. I don't have a problem with them, it's just that within a game that's already linear, we don't really need them. Like, they felt like more padding than anything else, just adding in some visual flair to levels that need it. Oh, also, no Super Sonic. I've read that he's in the game, and I've seen that he's in the game. They plan to implement him as DLC? What the hell? You spend 4 years on this game and you can't even put in Super Sonic? Like, yeah, the Chaos Emeralds aren't in this game, but it's Super Sonic! Everyone loves Super Sonic, and even if you don't, you do. I'm disappointed with modern Sonic the most. It's just sad how he went from generations to this game. Maybe Sonic Team should stop with the boost formula, maybe it's run its course. I'd have no problem with a different playstyle. Like, I'm not asking for Adventure 3, as the Adventure series wasn't that good to begin with. Sorry! But maybe it's time to try something different, I'm just not sure what. The custom character was the playstyle I was looking forward to the most, and I have to say that I enjoyed them the most out of the 3 characters. The custom character stages are structured like modern Sonic's, mostly 3D segments with the occasional 2D. They almost have the exact same abilities, but the custom character can't boost for obvious reasons. The custom character attacks using Wispons, a type of weapon that harnesses wisp powers from Sonic colours without causing the user to transform. There's Burst, Lightning, Cube, Asteroid, the most overpowered weapon, the Drill, Hover, and Void. These weapons act like basic attacks, but they all act differently. For example, Lightning allows the user to attack with a Lightning Whip, and Cube turns their enemies into cubes. Now, these weapons add some much needed variety to the gameplay and come with different special actions. You can use Burst or Hover to fly in the sky and obtain new routes within levels. You can use a Lightning Wispon which acts like a lightspeed dash, killing enemies too. Void allows you to travel to the nearest wall in an instant, and Cube makes cube platforms to get you higher in the level. Asteroid makes you invincible and attracts nearby enemies, and Drill allows you to travel on the surface at high speed, destroying all enemies, or you can climb walls. I really like taking different paths due to the Wispon I had equipped. I thought it was pretty refreshing to have different ways of progressing through the levels. Null Space is a perfect example of this, and many consider it the best level. I enjoy the gameplay of the custom character, I just wish it was fleshed out more. Levels could have been larger and there could have been more variety within the enemies. Seeing the same grey robot over and over and over again gets pretty boring. The custom character can also use a grapple to navigate through the stages. It's very limited on its usage and can't be used when the game doesn't allow you to use it. You can also use it to homing attack on enemies. It's quite sad really because it's quite a neat idea for gameplay, using the grapple to get to new environments that you normally wouldn't be able to get to. I've seen people say that the custom character was bad, to each their own, but I found that they were the highlight of Sonic Forces. Customizing them is also really fun if you're into that, making them look as ridiculous as possible is always a positive. You can be a bear, a bird, a cat, a dog, a hedgehog, a rabbit, or a wolf. They even come with their own special abilities, such as cats keeping one ring after being hit, or wolves drawing in rings. It's the little things, you know, like they add up and they make the whole experience better. After finishing the game, you can have one of every species, so go wild and make them look as ridiculous as possible. I really hope the custom character comes back in the future. I feel like their gameplay can be expanded upon greatly. Can you imagine using the vast number of rings you get to upgrade their Wispons, or even to buy more? I'm surprised that this wasn't in the game already, considering rings are pretty worthless now as the live system is gone, they only account for score. I just want this gameplay to be expanded upon, and seeing how the story ends, I hope it will be. The tag team stages are inconsistent, Sonic is only there for the boost and the custom character can do everything else. To compensate for Sonic not doing much, we get these tag team boost sections that consist of ploughing down hordes of enemies while running down a straight path. You don't even really have to do anything, you just tap a button a bit and then they run themselves. When they get going, you don't even have to hold down the boost button, you don't even have to move left or right. Game design at its finest, ladies and gentlemen. That's it really, that's the only unique thing about the tag team stages. Other than that, it's just like any other custom character level. Sad, I know. The whole gameplay of Sonic Forces is so weird. Like, I like it, except classic Sonic, but it could have been so much more. And I think that speaks for the whole game too. It could have been so much more, and that's why myself and other people are disappointed by it. There's 30 stages, but the game only clocks in around 4 hours and ultimately leaves a lot to be desired. There's red rings to collect, then once you collect them all you get numbered rings, and then once you've collected all of them you get silver moon rings. Collecting all of the red rings gives you extra levels, but as far as I'm aware, collecting all the numbered and silver moon rings gives you nothing except trophies. There's also missions for you to do, and when you complete them you get more outfits for your custom character, but that's it. There's no point in going after the collectibles unless you're a completionist and like platinum trophies, like myself. For this penultimate section of the video, I'm gonna keep it short but sweet. I enjoyed the music within Sonic Forces quite a bit. Say what you want, but I actually like Fist Bump, and of course Infinite's theme. Sunset Heights, Egg Gate, Spaceport, Null Space and Imperial Tower really stuck with me after playing. Sonic never fails with music, and this game proves just that. There are a lot of vocal tracks found throughout the stages, such as the previously mentioned Imperial Tower, Null Space and Spaceport, and coincidentally they're all levels where you place the custom character. Maybe the lyrics reflect what they're thinking, who knows, but it's great regardless. The boss themes are also neat. The remixes of Infinite's themes are really cool, and the final boss theme was just amazing, the opening being the best part of the song. Well, Sonic Forces just happened. I just wish it was longer. So much more could have been put into the narrative, and the levels and the characters could have been expanded upon a lot more. The whole game is disappointing. Once again, I don't think it's a bad game, it's just painfully average. Through the way it was advertised, it looked like it was going to be the next best thing since Generations. I wish I didn't have my expectations so high so I didn't fall flat on my face upon release, but once again, I'm an optimist, not a realist. I hope that the next installment is better, I really do. Maybe a change in gameplay style is needed, new employees, new writers, just anything to make the games better, I don't know. I wish we got 2 amazing Sonic games this year instead of the 1, but here's to the next installment. Thanks so much for watching guys, this video took me so long to make, having to balance it with schoolwork and life. I think it's gone on long enough, so take care guys, thanks for watching and I'll see you next time.